tuning into Power Athlete Radio. Another awesome episode with the crew is coming your way. I'm loving these discussions among John, Luke, and Tex because questions from our listeners provoke something that is rarely heard on Power Athlete Radio, and that is direction. When asked to provide pointed answers, the crew does not disappoint. Questions from Power Athlete Nation include, what is the best advice we've ever received? What are our thoughts on kids dropping out of high school to train CrossFit full-time? And who do we seek for mentorship? These are just a sample of the inquiries that lead the crew down what I would consider a more introspective road than usual. Don't worry though, somehow the guys have managed to use a number of movie references to illustrate how beloved training partner and resident anorexic Nate Austin is apparently gearing up for bikini season 2017. This is episode 164.
For them little white lines I'm smoking, going down the road.
Power Athlete Nation, what is up? Power Athlete Radio time again. If you haven't succumbed to the reality of this, it's time to submit. You are listening to the premier podcast in strength and conditioning. It's the podcast of the future. It's like Dippin' Dots for your ears. Have you ever heard that? Dippin' Dots, ice cream of the future?
I know what the Dippin' Dots are. I didn't know they were the ice cream of the future, though.
That's what I've been told.
No, they were 15 years ago. Now they're just ice cream.
Oh, the ice cream of the present.
I
never saw that coming.
One of my NFL buddies used to drive the Dippin' Dot truck around in the off-season. He had a Dippin' Dot there's like deal where he would like take it to parties, and he had a van and he would drive the Dippin' Dots. That was his off-season job.
That's not a bad one.
No, he crushed it.
You're dealing with technologically advanced ice cream. So, if you can't pick up, this is Luke Summers, Tex McQuilkin, and John Wellborn are sitting at Power Athlete HQ, and turning into Twinkle Time, the evening. We figured we're going to bang out a podcast here. John and Tex are on their way to Spain first thing tomorrow for a CrossFit football seminar. Going to be hanging out with Nono. Tex is going to be running with the Bulls.
Oh, yeah.
Are you?
Are you going? Are you going to stay extra?
I told him he should change his flight for one day and do it.
What do I got to lose?
The problem is it's a 4 hour. You got to get there 4 hours, and then you would have to get there 4 hours and then get back. I think it's kind of dicey. But, I mean, it's not like you got a wife and kids or anything, so fucking go for it.
Yeah, I got nothing to lose.
Well, technically that's not true.
I'm so close to the ground, and I've ridden one bowl, so I understand
You're really not that fast.
But
I mean, you look good. Toe up, knee up, punch and hammer, drive. Everything looks good. It's just not enough.
Well, this is the test of the training, John.
I mean, I like it. I mean, I believe me. I'm sure Sunday night I'll be like, fuck yeah, let's miss the flight. Let's think. And then I'll get out there and be like, let's just tackle these things.
Well, I think a detail you missed is Tex rode a bull when he was like 6 years old. So now he's like an avatar. He's plugged into the psyche of the bull, and he knows how to.
24. And the bull that I rode, it didn't even have a name, just a number, which was, ironically, John, 76.
Oh, was it? Oh, nice.
So that was kind of just an interesting thing when I was getting on. I was like 76.
Riding the bull, feeling the energy, feeling the flow.
But that was quite honestly the scariest thing I've ever done in my entire life. But any kind of moment, like 8 Mile moment or anything that I approached before, I'll just say to myself, say no bull ride, and then just go and do the best as you can.
Yeah. Pretty good. How big was this bull that you rode?
Biggest one they had.
It quite honestly was. So this was Kerrville Rodeo. So anybody that's been to Criders, any West Texas, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I went to the rodeo, and the week before, I got a little drunk. Lone Stars are only like $2 there. And so it was, I'm going to go ride a bull. So I showed up 1 week later, way before the rodeo started. It's like getting to a baseball game during batting practice. You can just do that to a rodeo. And so I just talked to a bunch of people and found my way up to the high stand. And then he's like, all right. So he handed me a waiver and said $10. So I had $10 cash. That's the only money I had on me that day. So it was like a perfect amount. It signed my life away. Called my father up, told him what I was doing. He was just like, just give me a call back after. So I told him I loved him, and I didn't hear it back. So I just did my best there. But I didn't have any gear. So I had to walk around and approach a bunch of cowboys. And fortunately, one guy who had 2 sons that were in the rodeo just took the lead for me. So he walked me around, introduced me to everybody. I got the chest plate, I got the spurs, I got the gloves, and I got a rope. one thing I couldn't find was a helmet. So I was the only kid in the rodeo. It was only like 16 to like 23-year-old dumbasses, including myself.
How old were you? 25.
23.
Oh,
It was post college. I couldn't get a job, so it's like, what do?
Yeah.
You go to West Texas, be a cowhand, and then just apply all over the internet. And still
Did you have a cowboy hat?
I did have a cowboy hat, yeah. And the boots that I still rock before I got the custom ones, they my first week,
That's where you got them.
I rode the bull, yeah. So they're the bull riders. So I had to borrow all this gear, and then I thought it would be before the whole party started, but then I was just waiting, and I was in queue, and finally they'd gone through a bunch of events, and then they were like, all right, McQuilkin, you're up. So I got up, and then the guys in front of me, they were on contract, so they were professional bull riders, and they were just kind of getting reps. And then the kids behind me were like 16 years old, so I had these pros, and I wanted to like turn around, take that look back, and it's kids. So I'm like, oh shit, there's a pros, and then that kid's 16, he's doing this, don't be a pussy. And so I'm sitting there, and then we're literally above the gate, and so you're just kind of in a marching line. The bulls are back behind you, so you can kind of see them just kind of getting pissed off. And finally my turn comes, and I don't know what I'm doing at all. So the guy's walking me through it, and he asked me, what are you doing? So there's no real saddle on these things. And so what they do is they take that rope that they get you, and the guy, he just loops it around the bull underneath and then whips it around the balls of the bull. So that rope that they're holding on to is just fucking pulling the bull's balls off. And that's why they're so fucking pissed off. So finally they get the, yeah.
Oh,
they get the,
sounds like a Friday night at the Packy house.
Yeah, that's all we do.
Yeah, she gets all. Never mind. So anyway, he walks me through it. He's like, you know what you're doing. So the rope is set. There's no turning back, and I get into the chute, and the thing is massive, so I can barely even fit my legs in there. So finally, I like slide into position, kind of find my hips, kind of find a good place, and I went right hand. So I got the rope, got my right hand, and they got like the pine tar on it, so you can get a good grip, the sticky. So I'm set in there, and he's like, all right, this is what I want you to do. You're going to give me a count to 3, and on 3, you're going to say go, and you're going to dig your spurs into the bull. So I'm like, all right. So I'm visualizing this as I'm sitting on this fucking beast, and it's like, all right, 1, 2, 3. When I said that to myself in visualization, I fucking dug my spurs into the bull, and he just started rattling back and forth, and just banging my knees against this metal cage. And so at that moment, I'm like, fucking, I have never hurt like this in my entire life. Let's fucking go. 3, 2, 1, go. And dug my spurs in again, fucking whipped out the gate, then lasted just 1.5 seconds, kind of like 1-2 bucks, and flew off. So I'm in the air. I hit the ground so hard that I bounce and land back on my feet, toes forward.
Universal athletic position, of course.
Right. And so the bull just darts off, fortunately, away from me. And so I'm sitting here like, what the fuck just happened? It was just so fast. And I just walk off the rodeo and just kind of get a few stupid claps from my friends that were out there. Nobody else was interested in like me getting my ass kicked. And then I'm hanging out. Finally my buddy had a beer ready for me, and I watched the next guy go. So it's some kid who basically the bull came out the chute and took an immediate left turn right into the cage. So this kid hit against the cage, flew off the bull, and then the bull took his horns, ripped his shirt, and you could see blood. He like ripped the rib cage. And I'm just like, holy shit. I don't know what happened.
One bull away.
One bull away. The order was set. And I was some amateur behind pros, behind kids that are 16 years old. Yeah, in front of kids that had done it before, though. They were actual, like, fucking cowboys. Luckily, he was wearing a helmet, but thank God I got the one bull 76 and wanted to get the fuck away from me.
Yeah, that's good.
So.
Well, you got a rope around his nuts. I mean, who, you know.
Yeah. So just cross that off the list. It's
So how hard could running with the bulls be?
Easier.
Right.
I think it makes total sense.
Yeah. Logic's not – it's perfect.
I mean, Jared Allen ran with the Bulls, and I remember him telling me the story. They go in, and all of a sudden, you know, he's there, and everybody's having a great time, big party in the streets, and then, you know, he's wearing the white outfit, the whole deal. All of a sudden, like, the sun comes up, and they're still having a good time. All of a sudden, they start ringing bells, and he said everybody got deathly quiet. And then that's when he knew. And he said as soon as he saw the hole, he like took off running, and he said he's never run so fast in his whole life. He like sprinted into the arena. And
he did the final stretch? Because Nono was telling me there's five legs of it. So you can do the opening leg or the middle legs or the final leg, which goes into the arena. Yeah. And that's the one, I guess the one into the arena is the most dangerous, because if somebody does fucking fall at the gate, like that's where people get piled up.
Yeah.
And all the fucking bulls just are pummeling at the same time. They see the opening, they see the gate, and they'll actually blow through a pile of fucking people and just like blow them up.
wow.
So I would do the fifth one.
Yeah, the last one, naturally.
Yeah.
I mean, we survived Oktoberfest.
Believe me, I'd rather run with the Bulls than go Oktoberfest with Bo Colombo for 3 days.
You rather run with the Bulls and go to Bo Colombo Oktoberfest? No.
You gotta spend 3 days with Bo. Yeah.
The problem with a guy like Bo is there is no tomorrow. You remember like when Rocky's like tomorrow, and like Creed's like there is no tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like Bo Colombo, there is no tomorrow. That guy's been living for like, they tell you to like live like you're dying tomorrow, because literally Bo could die tomorrow.
Fair enough.
I think he's more of a Mickey, but that's just me.
You think he's like, come on, Tex?
He's a great motivator.
He's a great.
Yeah,
So-
he'll get you to do some stupid stuff. But.
So we put out a little feeler for questions on Instagram, and I think that people are going to be in for a fucking show. And like, I think Jay Welly is going to be putting on a clinic today, because he's been on a rampage since he's picked me up earlier this morning. So Jay Welly's fired up. He's got us all fired up. So that's why we fired this out.
Well,
see if we can get you fired up.
Where all this stuff happened was we did a little social experiment on CrossFit football.
Yeah.
That has been enlightening, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing a little social experiment on CrossFit football, because we're able to track how many hits the sites get, but based on the amount of comments we get, it's pretty low. We're getting anywhere from like 30 to 15, 20, 14, 10. I mean, pretty low comments. Back in the day, we used to get hundreds. And, it isn't like the amount of hits is going down. We're still pretty consistent over the years in terms of hits, but just daily interaction.
And you get a feel for like who your customer is, right? So as any service provider, if someone asks you like, who's your customer, you should be able to describe either a demographic, a psychographic, or something.
Yep.
And John's like, who are our people? We used to know them on the CrossFit football site. Like we used to know them. We used to know what the energy was.
They were our friends. They were our we used to come hang out with them. We used to go visit them. Like CrossFit football used to be this extremely tight-knit organization. And since, when we decided to take a move towards more power athlete, more custom programming to effectively bring our unit in closer and really start knowing our people in a more personal way, CrossFit football kind of just got put out there almost like a social experiment. And so kind of looking at it, checking the comments, I'm like, God, these comments are so low and they're so unproportionate to the amount of hits we're getting. I wonder how many people are actually following the program. So how do you know, or how can you do a measurable way to find out who's following the program, and not just scanning it, some bots, something just mining information and, those hits? I mean, how many of those are actual unique organic hits? So we devised a plan.
Coming to look for a workout.
Yes, coming to look for a workout. And how many people are actually following this stuff? Because how many people just aren't just scoping it, just coming to it. So we did a little social experiment where we set up a deal for, if you want to know the workout, you have to email us. And I didn't really think this way through. I just said, hey, send an email to info. And Callie and I had an over-under of about 100 to 150 people. And oddly enough, we're at a few thousand.
Yeah.
Emailed us, which totally shut down our Gmails, wreaked havoc on all of our email servers. And so we had to now collect them. And, basically we should have set it up like this beforehand, but there wasn't much.
Well,
we tried to include Luke, but it was 4th of July weekend, and Luke doesn't work from the 1st to about the 10th. So that 10 days around 4th of July.
1st of June.
Yeah.
To the 10th of August.
Yeah. So Luke is our tech support, and our, hey guys, there's a better way to do this. It was just off the reservation.
Well,
so he left it up to Callie and I, who just, what can we do? Info sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, well, I was thinking 300 emails as well, like a couple hundred, and that's not uncommon. So it's totally manageable. But
what's the saying? Don't measure, just cut.
No, measure twice, cut once.
No, I just think it's like pull and pray. But so we get a few, thousands of emails to us requesting the program, I would say probably 50% of them were extremely complimentary. Like, thank you so much for the free programming. Send me my workout. Thanks. You guys are doing a great job. 25% were zero emotion of like nothing but just the subject line with like want, like single word. I'm too cool to actually type anything, or I'm so fucking busy. How dare you? I got one guy who was like, not cool, and I actually responded to him like, what's not cool? Well, I'm on the way to the gym, and how dare you make me email for the workout, which I didn't even send him the workout. He can fucking fuck off. And then we got a whole bunch of people that with a lot of butthurt. This is really inconsiderate. How dare you make me actually put some effort for it to get this workout? One guy accused us of just, there's a better way to mine emails, and actually we weren't mining anything. We were just wanted to know who people were, and we were looking for some social interaction. Then we took the emails and we cross-referenced them to people that were not only in our Power Athlete, had bought something, seminars, something that were in our database in some way. And what would you say the percentage of people?
15% maybe.
15%. So
15% of the people wanting a free workout, in my opinion, showed support and appreciation for the brand by investing in it through getting shirts, which aren't fucking retarded shirts. I mean, they're like, I think our shirts are pretty legit. Or get a sticker, get a fucking, we have all sorts of shit.
Or come to a seminar, or even submitted themselves to our newsletter, nothing. So effectively, we have zero demographics and know nothing about our CrossFit football consumers. Other
than they're freeloaders, which I get. I was a freeloader for a long time and still on other services but I don't know. I just don't think click a button. Hey, can I please have the email? Put Project Mayhem, which is kind of cool, in the subject would get me butthurt. I don't know. But
I don't know. Is it,
I'm not connected with the people who are, I think, on that site, and I think that we are almost spoiled by some of the folks we work with on the side of Power Athlete, right? We work with through Train Heroic via Grindstone or Field Strong or any of that stuff, because even though some people might come in and be a little snarky to start, they finally get it. And then, they know that they have access to world-class coaches if they just drop a message in the feed. And, we will get to it if we're around. And, you get a thanks, and they listen to the fucking podcast. They reference the podcast, and, they're embedded in the community.
So they're invested. So really what we were looking for, and really the idea that we started Power Athlete and, the forums and the custom programming, is we wanted to effectively pull in the people that we wanted to interact with, as, we couldn't really do this for CrossFit football. I was totally blown away by the amount of people that emailed us for the workout, and I'm actually blown away that many people would be doing the workouts, requesting it, but yet feel no desire and nothing to actually posting on the forums or involving themselves in any way.
Yeah, in the community, in the comments, right?
Yeah.
And is it because they're program hopping?
Or they, they're just merely just give me my free fucking workout. I don't give a fuck where it comes from.
Well, maybe, how about this? Maybe people who listen to this comment on the blog post on this if you're following CrossFit football and you're not these guys, because maybe we need to see a little positivity in CrossFit Football Nation. It's not the positivity like pat on the butt. Hey, you're doing a great job. We don't respond to that. Like, hey, let's fucking go. We're here. We're fucking soldiers. We want to bang weights. Our fucking people, our brand.
Well, originally, when CrossFit football was suggested to me, it was a seminar to support CrossFit. Sport specific. That SPP, that physical or specific physical preparation type of approach. And, even though we got settled with CrossFit football, which might not have been the best of names, we really were able to grow a community of really, solid people. And, since then, there's become so many other free programs. And, when we first started, we were really the only kid on the block offering a legitimate strength conditioning program. Not just, more kind of mixed modal, hey, I'm going to kind of cycle through strength, all these other things. Actually a periodized strength template mixed with short conditioning type workouts. So we kind of revolutionary in that way. I think the idea of starting it, was a seminar, and then I put the website together and the programming to support the seminar and to tell people who we were. And oddly enough, the website didn't really bring people to the seminar the thought away. I thought people would do the programming, be so excited about it, wanted to more come to the seminar, whereas actually where we got to engage people. And, and over the years, every seminar we asked, how many people have been to the CrossFit football website? How many people have done the program for a day, a week, a month, a year? And it's less, 20%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that
20%.
raise their hand, I would say, first off, it's like who's been to the website. That number is hilariously shrinking in the sense that it used to be 1 out of 20 would like, and even they'd raise their hand, and then you find out the next day they've never been to the fucking website. You're like, there's always one. But now it's like, dude,
now it's
maybe
like,
1 out of 4, 1 out of 5.
yeah, I've never been to the website.
Mhm.
And then how many people have followed the programming at least once?
Mhm.
That goes up. I mean, 6 months, a year. I mean, you go through and the numbers just dwindle down. And really the reason people come to the seminar is either word of mouth recommendation. Oh my God, you have to go to this seminar. I learned so much. This is what I needed to learn to train sports teams.
Mhm.
So I need to come to a CrossFit seminar that's going to prep me to be able to train teams. Or it looked interesting when I was looking at the seminar.
But there has been an uptick of people that are following a Train Heroic program.
Yeah.
So whether it's Field Strong and they want to learn how to do the Spider-Mans, the Dead Bugs, and all the
Warm up,
everything.
sprint protocol.
Oh, shocker. The people willing to invest in programming are the ones who are willing to invest in information and education.
Yeah, which people were willing to invest in.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a kind of an interesting deal that we put out a free program, and and then recently I got a guy emailed who was like, hey, I got to cut some finances off for Field Strong, and I'm just going to go back to CrossFit football because it's a power athlete program, but it's free.
Mhm.
And I look at that and I'm like, wow. Well, I mean, if you've done Field Strong for a year and you're totally cool to go back to something like CrossFit football, either you don't understand the value or, whatever. So, yeah, I mean, who knows? We're still just trying to decide the fate. And I'll write a blog post and think a lot of, meditate on this. I was actually a little disheartened with a lot of the responses that people gave us and kind of the strange sense of entitlement, almost like free shit breeds entitlement. And, not like, hey guys, thanks, I don't mind kicking you an email or at least contacting, or the fact that you're forcing me to interact when all everybody complains is, oh, the internet's so impersonal.
Mhm.
And now here's a situation where we're like, hey, you've been doing this program, email us, get the workout, interact, and forcing people some form of interaction, because obviously they're not doing it themselves. They're not commenting. There's no, they're not joining the Facebook feed. I mean, we have so many touch points.
Mhm.
And the fact that 85% of the people that emailed us have never been in a touch point with us was kind of a little disheartening a little bit. I mean, way different than the original deal.
Yeah, just reflecting on the original deal as we're talking about it, what the comment section of football represented to me was the leaderboard. So we'd look like Max, we challenge each other. So a guy I'd never met before, but we're in the same kind of number scheme in terms of times to workouts and all this good stuff. And it was the opportunity to compete again, to be like an actual athlete on a program where even though we're not sitting next to each other, I'm still going to push because I don't want to lose that guy or that guy. And it was also the opportunity to springboard questions to learn more about the breadth of the program.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was one of the first Space Monkey assignments was get on these questions. Let's see what you know. And it was a test. And then Kelly and I would then turn that into a competition of who could best represent the correct answer.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why we're fired up here, people. So a lot of things going on. So Tex, I know you've been jotting down. What do we got? What do you want to hit? You want to hit some quick hits first? You want to go deep?
Let's go ahead. Let's throw Will Jones a bone here since he's done a lot for us.
Mm-hmm.
Big monkey versus small monkeys. What are some of the indicators that help determine where athletes fall into this spectrum? How do you account for this in programming in a group fitness environment?
So let's give the narrative,
yeah.
the 1 minute narrative on the
Okay.
big monkey, small monkey.
I feel like this is like the lactic bathing all over again. The big monkey, small monkey theory was first presented to me by Dr. Romanoff, and it was based off an observation that some Russian sports scientists did of monkeys, that there were certain monkeys that only moved enough to be able to eat and subside, and there were other monkeys that played and battled and fought. And so as a result, what they did is they put the one monkeys that only wanted to move just enough to eat and subside into a situation where they had to do a lot of movement and a lot of different things to get their food. And then they took the monkeys that were used to moving and playing and battling, and they locked them in cages for 23 hours a day. And then they observed them. And the monkeys that got locked in cages ended up beating each other to death, and the other ones actually ended up just laying down and dying. And so based off of this study that they did, and I don't have any references for the study, so don't fucking email me and ask me to send it to you because I don't have it. It was a story told to me by somebody, and there was no reference for it. So if I get an email, it's like, hey, could you send me that study, which has happened over the years, we don't have it. And this has never been documented, but what happened was over the course of many, many years of Dr. Romanoff training with athletes and working with different Olympians, he noticed that certain athletes were able to handle more training volume than other athletes. And regardless of the training volume, training volume did not correlate with athletic performance in the sense of the guy who trained more did better. So there were some athletes that trained 3 days a week and went on and won gold medals. There were other guys that trained 10 times a week, 2 days and 3 on Sunday. And those guys were able to go in and win gold medals. And the problem is when they tried to switch volumes and force the guy that did, hey, well, he's only trained 3 days a week and he won a gold medal. So if he trains 10 times a week, then he will effectively set world records. And what happened was that guy would end up getting worse. And the guys who were, just wanted to train 3 times a day, were ready to go. Those guys ended up doing great. When they trained less, they didn't do as well. So, going back into my own Rolodex in my memory, one of my roommate in college was a guy named Kevin Doherty, and Doe was super strong dude, squatted, I think, in the 7s in high school, benched 420 in high school, and was a big, strong dude coming in, 18 years old. Yeah, beast. Or maybe he squatted in the 6s. His training partner, Bruce, and I can't remember Bruce's last name, he squatted like 7-something in a set of reps. I mean, these dudes were so strong in high school. And I remember Doe came in, and every day we were at college, he almost got worse. By the end of college, he could barely bench 300 pounds and couldn't even squat 5. And I remember being like, Doe, what's wrong? He's like, I just feel so tired. I can never recover. And I asked him once, I'm like, well, what'd you do in high school? He's like, we trained 3 days a week. He goes, they did a squat day on Monday. They did a bench day on Tuesday. And Friday was like a pull accessory day. And that's it. And they used to rotate max effort, reps, speed. So they do speed day, and he laid out this program. It was kind of a West Side influence deal. They trained 3 days a week. And dude, he was brutally strong, and Bruce is brutally strong. All of a sudden we get to college and, football is something that will naturally select for the big monkey just for the amount of training that you have to do. And Bruce ends up hurting his back and taking a medical. And Doe literally got weaker every single day. And I remember his comment to me was like, every day I go train, which was ironic, seeing as that all of a sudden now all I got to do was train and I got better each workout. And pro football will naturally select, at least on offensive line, for the big monkey. And for me, I mean, with double days and training camp and all that shit, like as the more training went on, I got better. And there were other guys that we went to training camp, just could never handle the load. And so it's not better or worse to be a big monkey or small monkey. And I think the name big monkey, small monkey, there's some connotation with good and bad. And I'm like, it's not good or bad. It's just what you as an individual need to maximize performance. Now, in a perfect world, I want to be a small monkey. I would love to train 3 days a week and make great gains, but I know myself that I can't continue to progress unless I can put a solid training volume together. But yet other people can do really well. And I'm sure you guys have all had clients that have trained 3 days a week and we're making amazing results. And then what do? You should come 4 days and then 5 days and 6 days, and then they get hurt. And then what do? And then they quit, and you think, man, they weren't tough enough. Instead of being like,
well, first off, hopefully you think about why they quit.
Well, they probably don't. They just feel like, because the CrossFit mentality is if one is good, 100 is more. But they don't realize.
Well, I just want to stick up for it because it's the CrossFit mentality. That's what it used to be. And people are getting smarter now, but it's still you have to become a more seasoned coach to understand this shit. And there's a lot of green coaches, a lot of greenhorns that just hammer them with that. So.
Well, it's because the hammer is the most readily available tool.
Yeah.
Put people in and just throw them in the meat grinder, 20-minute workouts, hammer them. When, I'm all about the proper dose for the most biggest rate of return. So if I can get somebody to progress and make gains off of 3 days a week, perfect. And the minute the 3 days a week, started and their progress slows and not doing as well, I'll talk to them and be like, hey, do you want to come a 4th day? How you feeling? Oh, I feel like I'm ready for it. Okay, good. How you sleeping? How's the training? Good. I had a 4th day and you see how they're going. Should I come 5? Let's see how 4 goes. And so I was really, really, slow on really moving people in, because I did the same shit. I used to be like, man, you're making great gains. You should come every day. And then they fucking hurt themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then I never see them again. And I lost them as clients. And, you can get a lot also on the big monkey, small monkey from talking to somebody about their background. So what did you do on your training? What did you do growing up? Oh shit, you were a collegiate gymnast. Wow, you trained, 7 days a week for 3 hours. Good chance you're a big monkey. Like a lot of football players, especially at, offensive, defense, linebacker, those type of positions, are big monkeys, but yet there's a lot of quarterbacks and kickers in those guys that are small monkeys.
Yeah.
Tom Brady and a lot of the high-end quarterbacks that I played with, there was a little dude whose job, he has like a baseball counter. And he knew Tom Brady got exactly 150 throws every practice, and regardless of where they were, he was done. And that's how many throws he had. So, but there were other guys, like I played with some dudes that threw 100 times, but I also played with other guys that could throw 300 times in practice.
So just to know with that, and we just had an article about this, so what you can look for as a coach is just like with a quarterback as an example, is the proficiency of movement, is their ability to execute to the best of their abilities that because you know these athletes. So just as if Tom Brady and his coaches know if he gets close to 200, his accuracy will start to dip and drown.
Well, and his arm will get sore, and then he won't have the performance on the game base. I mean, they have enough metrics of this guy to know exactly how much volume over a total week he can handle, and they know if they go over, it'll adversely affect his performance on Sunday. But they know they have to keep the volume at a certain amount, and it'd be sore, and like it's just. But that's understanding you as an athlete, and the problem becomes. You have a guy like Rich Froning, for example, who trains 3 times a day.
Yeah, becomes an idol.
And then it's like we've had like the kid we had at the seminar up in Northern California. I mean, he literally
changed his whole wardrobe.
He was sitting there, and I literally thought he was Rich Froning because he had like the beard, he had the head on, had the necklace, was wearing all the clothes, and I'm like, looks like a small Rich Froning. I mean, the guy even made me call him Rich, which was odd. And he's over there eating peanut butter, drinking all. I mean, like literally, if Rich Froning told him that he eats fire, that dude would have had a lighter. And like I remember asking with him and being like, "Tell me about your training." I just, whatever Rich does. And I'm like, well, I mean, the problem is you're not a Rich Froning. Like, what have you done? Like, how did you stumble across this? And so the big monkey small thing is just observation. Like,
and
is somebody making gains with the proper dose? And you know what? Just hitting somebody with the proverbial fire hose all the time. I mean, like that's the easy thing to do, but understanding how you pluck people out and how you got to get them.
And I want to, I guess, make a closing point on this so we can get to some other questions because, he talks about or asks about putting this in a group fitness environment. And what I'm getting, I guess, my experience is from the 2 gyms I've worked at commercially, right? I don't think that the 20 to 30 minutes of work is really, how do I want to say this? For a new person, it's going to take a year or so for that to depending on how you're programming, let's say intelligently like we did at Balboa and with like the CrossFit football thing, it's going to take a couple years for these people to get to what we would like our base level of strength concept where they become a trained athlete and they can actually perform at a level that's going to be detrimental. Especially if you're doing like the 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week. But I guess what I would have you do if people are starting to feel trashed is fucking, there's 2 ways to do it. If people want to come in and get their 5 days, tell them just to sandbag it one day. Just because you show up. I remember when I used to show up and I'd feel like shit, I would just go slow.
Well, I mean, the something we learned from doing that Bulgarian power athlete, and I always remember the quote Abajev said, you're never not strong enough to just lift the bar.
Exactly.
And I remember when we came in and we did that program, I mean, I remember one day I came in and like, 60 kilos felt like 600. And I remember I'm like, I'm just going to lift the bar today. And I remember Nate was like, what the fuck? Like trying to talk shit. And I was like, hey man, like if I'm going to lift the bar, I'm just going to put a little weight on. Like I need this day. And then I came back and had some monster days, whereas Nate never, he just eccentrically loaded a lot of weight. And basically, he actually, what he did is he tested the triphasic, but it was solo phasic.
Yeah.
Unknowingly.
Unknowingly,
well,
solo phasic.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know, but there's a book called Triphasic I've been going through, which is pretty interesting, where they talk about, actually training different muscle contractions. Shocker, something we figured out a long time ago. But in it, they talk about heavy eccentrics, which are very potent for a certain population as long as you have a very competent athlete. competent spotters and a safe environment to do it. And going back to our 3P model, is it prudent? Is it practical? And is it purposeful? Yeah, it has a purpose, but can you do it? Yeah. Should you do it? Well, not really.
That depends, on athlete ability and
like
training
today,
age.
Like today, we have a kid who's getting ready to go play at USC here in a couple of weeks, and we were squatting on the safety bar pretty heavy for singles. And his the set before his final looked okay, and he got underneath I guess it'd be 420, 440, which is pretty heavy on a safety bar squat if you've never done it. And he gets underneath it all nonchalant, and I'm looking at this kid. I'm like, hey man, you need a spot? No, I got this. I'm like, fuck, this kid's, if you never squat on the safety squat bar, you got, I've seen 600-pound squatters get fucking stapled with that thing. And all of a sudden, I'm like watching this kid, and I dude, when that weight gets heavy on the safety squat bar, all of a sudden, everything in my mind goes super fine-tuned. I know exactly how I'm going down. And what does he do? He just rides the yellow radio, real casual, just fucking gets stapled on the thing. And he's a big guy. There was no way to spot the safety bar from the rear. You can't do it, not on a big dude. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, get over here. And so the guys run over, we lift him up, and he was kind of a little bit embarrassed. But I'm like, hey, fucking first, pull your fucking head out of your ass. But that kind of global awareness of understanding, what's good or bad, how should it all fit in is paramount. So, but
just to button this up for Will is don't change it. I mean, assuming you're programming how we've taught you to program, right? Which is we have our parameters in terms of time domains, movement patterns we should be hitting, planes of axes we should be hitting. You should have some sort of strength component. Have these fuckers ride it out. And, there's some auto regulation. If you feel like shit, go slower, right? If you're feeling it, get after it, and then find out who your people are. I just wouldn't sweat it too much because you're talking about general population fitness class. Now, if you push that into a competitor who in 3 years wants to make it to the games, you're going to have to get jiggy with it. You have to measure.
Well, that also, if you think about, people love to talk about, conjugate method, but in terms of getting ready for CrossFit, it's progressive overload.
Yeah.
You have to be able to, almost, the analogy becomes like the ability to handle hot coffee. So I'll take you back to a story where years ago I had to go to Columbus, Ohio to go hang out with Louis Simmons. And I brought along a young bright-eyed kid named Nate Austin. And we have to get up at 5 in the morning so we can be at Bob Evans by 6, so we can be at Louis by 8. And so we get up at 5, we go hit Starbucks, and we get in. I send Nate in to get 2 Americanos. He gets in the car, hands me. What do? I pop the lid off and just start chugging the coffee. Nate kind of looks at me and is like, oh, pops the top off, takes a sip. As soon as it hits it, spits everything out there and burns his tongue. He can't figure out for the life of me how I can drink a hot coffee straight out. I told him, I'm like, this ain't my first fucking cup of coffee. I've destroyed all of my taste buds and all sensitivity into my mouth by drinking hot coffee because, you know what, I'm not going to wait for it to cool down. Fuck it, I'll just, progressive overload. And what did Nate do? He burned himself, and he's never drank coffee ever since.
Well, not hot coffee.
Not any coffee.
So, I don't know, Tex, what do you got, a bridge? You got a segue?
I do. So, this guy's, he's overthinking it, and he doesn't know if he's a big or a small monkey, and it's a very psychology-driven question. So, you ready for this, John? I feel psychologically ready for two-a-days, but everything I've learned about recovery in terms of proper sleep, food intake, is it worth it? I love to train, but I don't want to do more harm than help to my progress by constantly hitting weights.
Okay.
So I guess, where's the question? He's just trying to find guidance in terms of two-a-days for training.
Okay, say it again. Wait, did I hear it? Was there a question in there?
Yeah, so he's getting to the question. The question is, if he squats, if he lifts in the morning, should he do Metcons in the evening? Would that be too much?
I don't know. I don't know him.
Right.
What are your numbers? Who are you?
What are you even training for?
What are you training for? Why? Who? How? Tell me something. Give me something. If you're listening to this, which you're not because we're not live, but
well, let's just make a gross assumption and say that he's been progressing with what he's been doing, and there's not been some sort of stall. Why would you change it?
Well, here's my deal. The only reason I ever cut things into double days was that if the volume of work got too much to where intensity dropped off. Like, people are all fucked up on this double days thing. Like, people are like, well, why did you train twice a day? Well, because I knew that the volume of the quality of work that I needed to do I couldn't do over the course of time. Like if I trained in the morning, we ran and we did plyos and we did all that, and that took 45 minutes, 90 minutes, whatever it was. Okay, great. That was how my intensity did, and then I needed to go rest and recover, and then I would come back and I would bang weights, and I knew I could train for another. Now, if all of a sudden you said to me, John, we're going to train for the next 5 hours, what all of a sudden does that intensity look like? Like when we were sitting there with Dr. Tom, all of a sudden, like for the first 3 hours, then you're like, dude, you fell off. I'm like, yeah, my intensity is great. And then all of a sudden I get to the point where I hit it, I got to go home and rest and recover.
Sure.
So, I mean, like, I think like people are really looking for this magical understanding of when they should go to double days. I'm like, if the volume of work that you're asked to do in a single day, you cannot keep intensity at a level at which the training becomes meaningful, purposeful, and and paying the dividends you need, then what's the problem here?
Right.
And then you split it up.
And double days isn't like
It's
isn't like smoking cigarettes. It doesn't make you cooler. You know what I mean? It's like
but it's like this badge of honor, and I'm also like,
no, it's not though. People think it is.
Well, they think, oh, dude, double days. What?
Mm-hmm.
For what?
Elite.
I mean, a lot of bodybuilders do double days because.
But think of these guys. Like, think of the life cycle, and what we do a bad job of doing is we have a base. Like when we talk about a population, we don't explain it. Like the guys that are doing double days need to do double days because they're at the point where they have to do double days. If this guy is asking if he needs to do double days, he doesn't.
If you got to ask big man, you can't afford it.
Exactly.
Well,
Just to be clear, guys, on what I mean by that is there's a training volume accrued over a period of time far beyond what this gentleman or lady or whoever has gathered, and probably doesn't need to do it, right?
Well, so the other reason we did double days is that when we go to training camp, we had double days.
Exactly.
So we trained twice a day. We were in 2 padded practices. So in essence, what I did was I was mimicking the effects of training camp. So we would do run, plyo, sprint, all of our change of direction, position specific stuff in the morning. And then we'd go home, rest and recover, eat, and then I'd go back and I would train and bang weights and do everything I needed to do in the evening. But that was almost prepping me because I figured out that if I did one workout in the off season, all of a sudden I got the double days and I wasn't ready to handle the load. I was Nate Austin with a hot cup of coffee. And so, here's the thing too: if you're going to win or if you're going to compete in the CrossFit Games, how many workouts do you think they're going to do in the CrossFit Games?
2 or 3,
400 in a day, right? I mean, seriously, like they'll throw 2 to 3, 4 workouts in a day.
Yeah.
So if you're going to the CrossFit Games and you're not doing 2 and 3 and 4 workouts a day,
I don't think that you got the wrong guy because he's talking about a PM session being farmer walks.
Yeah.
So
I interpreted this question as somebody preparing for sport 2 days, but then kind of rereading it and hearing y'all's interpretation, this guy's just training to train.
Yeah.
Well, but I don't really call farmer walks like training. To
he's
me,
trying to split 2 different targeted energy systems into 2 different training sessions over 2 periods of the day.
Sure.
Yeah. If you got the time and availability to do it, but I guess I feel like Billy Madison, like shaking that fat kid, like don't ever leave, and fucking in Billy Madison. But like, dude, just keep going. You should be getting progress. If you like how you look, feel, and perform, keep on going. The old Rob Wolf, like fucking 8 years ago. How do you look? How do you feel? How do you perform? Go do it. As soon as it stops working, then maybe just change it up. Or if you're curious to try it. And then if it doesn't feel good or doesn't work, it's not what it cracked out to be. Look, feel, perform starts to go down. Get rid of it.
But all right, next question. We'll go with an easy one. So, what's the greatest knowledge bomb that you've ever heard? And number 2, what's the greatest bomb that you've heard this year?
You're enhancing these questions.
Yeah.
That's not the question, but you enhanced it.
Yeah, because I can. I'm sitting here in the seat.
You are the question master.
Creative freedom.
Wow. What's the best piece of knowledge I've ever heard?
Can I throw mine out there?
Yeah, throw it out there.
Without a doubt, a man with a choice is a man with a problem.
Well,
like that, I've run into
your father.
that. Yeah, it's my old man, and it's like there's just there's so much like obviously deep meaning to that, but it's just like how fucking true is that? No choice, no problem.
Yeah.
So it's just like now, what can you do with that information? I don't know, just other than fucking.
That can help you be a better leader instead of providing options for somebody. You just give them direction.
There you go. But so that I think that's one I always think of, like probably on a weekly basis. I'm fucking posed with that. Like, man, it's a wise man that said that.
Yeah, you do say that a lot.
But I wonder if you want something more applicable to training.
Well, I can do 2 trainings.
All right, well, Tex, what do you got?
First training, best knowledge bomb I've ever heard, CrossFit Football Seminar circa 2009, posture and position. So I played defense and for lacrosse. So if I lost my position, the whole defensive scheme is done, and I failed. And in this sport, the whole offenses are designed to attack my position. So I had 20 opportunities to fail. So it was if I maintain my position on the field. That's what I was told for 4 years. And then all of a sudden I attend this seminar, and it's then John made the connection between you lose your position on the field, you fail, whether that's offensive tackle, guard, or lacrosse. And then if you lose your position on the weight, whatever you're doing, you fail. So it's the opportunity to fight for posture and position with everything in the world coming down on you, and you to maintain that. So that was just what helped make the connection for me as an athlete, then coach, and between the program and the weight room and the field. So best knowledge bomb I've heard within a year, it's going to be from that sprinting book. I've been balls deep in France over there, or Frank
Bosch. Franz Bosch.
So it was just about the hamstring, and he called it, the hamstring is the spider in the web of motion. So hamstring is what regulates movement, and it's the dampening spring within the leg. And because it's a biarticular muscle, which means it crosses two joints, and a quad, on the other hand, is just crosses one. So monoarticular, and that's what initiates movement. So the hamstring becomes more important when we talk about change of direction plyometrics, in that it regulates the action of the leg instead of just initiating the movement.
For me, probably the best knowledge bomb ever was when we came up and really just for years been trying to develop a definition of athleticism. And it's actually on the wall. The ability to seamlessly and effortlessly combine primal movement patterns through space to accomplish a known or novel task. So that was probably the best, but the best one this year, and I'll break them into two, comes from my good friend Jim Wendler. After I had our little boy, I was feeling extremely unmotivated because I wasn't sleeping very much. And so whenever I need a kick in the balls and a little bit of motivation, I reach out to Jim, and we discuss, because he's got a couple kids, and we just kind of bitch about being fathers. And I asked him, I said, yo, man, I need a little bit of motivation. He actually wrote me something extremely poetic. He said, John, you're too strong and too successful to need motivation. Motivation is an emotional response to a goal. You know that discipline and consistency is what it takes to be successful, free of emotion. You'll train regardless, even if it's pointless. Personally, I train to fulfill need to set and achieve goals. This is who I am and who I want to continue to be. So it's no longer about just squatting X pounds. It's about the challenge of hitting a new goal for a PR on that day. And this continues even when I'm super busy or tired. I just adjust the training. So find your principle for training or why you do it, and adjust to the circumstances. I imagine training was for football and then for strength, and then eventually you realize it's just got a bigger hold of you, and the evolution is pretty cool. And here's actually the two best parts. He said, you must evolve as training can no longer serve the initial purpose. And then here's the best piece of knowledge Jim Wendler's ever given me. Standing water is filled with disease. Jim Wendler. Mm-hmm. Standing water is filled with disease. So when I come in the morning and we start working, I look at that quote and think standing water is full of disease. Rolling stone gathers no moss. It's time to just keep fucking rolling and moving forward. And so oddly enough, our deal is we don't know where we're going, but we're going to go real fast. If you ever driven with us anywhere, that's how we go. So really the little bit of motivation I have on my wall from Jim Wendler, and then our definition of athleticism.
Yeah, and I guess paralleling that, in text, maybe you can remember the guest, but his podcast guest, and he summed up kind of what we do here in, I don't know, it's a very simple way, and it was be useful. Was that Chris McDougall?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Chris McDougall episode, Born to Run.
Of the best one we
and
had.
He just said it that simple, and like I just saw like all sorts of shit flash before my eyes, whether it was like moving a fucking piece of furniture, helping you fucking load up that trailer with all that garbage in your backyard when you demoed your house. Remember we put like 6,000 fucking pounds of garbage in there, or like going out and playing like weekend sports and shit like that, or anything. Like be useful, but all of it is predicated on your ability to do this seamlessly, effortlessly, combine ground movement patterns through space, known and novel tasks, right? And like, I guess if you're training or you're following a program and you can't, or you're writing a program for your people and you can't say, how is this making them more useful? I mean, maybe you got to take a step back, right? So, I mean, we can, and that's one thing I think, The guys in Manchester at the last seminar kept giving me a pat on the butt for which there's like 3 or 4 guys there that were just like literally would come up and pat my butt. One guy, it was his second time at the seminar, dude Tom. Alec, who we know Alec, if he's probably going to fucking listen to this, because he's written me his fucking, how many fucking
love letters?
love letters. But these guys are just like, dude, you're making these connections, or you're threading all the information up. You're threading it together. And it's like, anything we tell you to do, we can tell you exactly why it's making you more useful in either your competitive domain, or if you're just a general person following Field Strong, why it's going to make you more useful in life, right? And that's because the training should have purpose rather than just getting good at training, right? So, I don't know.
Next one.
Yeah,
all right, so sticking with primal movements, here is a question I'd love to get into. What do you say to the camp of people who would have athletes perform unilateral versus bilateral movements in the squat or deadlift, i.e. doing single leg split squats or traditional back squats? So I'd like to just get into unilateral versus bilateral. I don't know about the formation of the question, but this is something we had on the forums. And the approach that I wanted those people in the discussion on the forums to take is it's not one versus the other.
Yeah.
When we look at primal movements, it's 3 actions in the lower body that we're focusing on. So 2 of those just happen to be unilateral. So two actions, we're going to talk about lunge and step up, and then bilateral is going to be our hip hinge or squat or deadlift. So it's not one versus the other. It's giving the athlete proficiency and competency
in all of them
under high amount of stress.
In every plane of motion. And I guess what we would say to those people who are subscribed to just unilateral, you're wrong. Like, broaden your horizon. And if you're just, what did I say first, unilateral or bilateral?
You said
the other one that I didn't say, you're wrong too. They both have a place in training. You should know how to use them. Again, we're about being as athletic as possible in life or in sport, and you need to have both of those components involved. I guess one thing that we are known for is linearly progressing the bilateral movements, right? And when I questioned John over a cocktail at a gentleman's lounge about why we couldn't do the bilateral or unilateral, he said, you can. He's like, but I just want to get more. So when we talk about the novice window, we want to get the most out that we can and teach our athlete how to support a larger amount of weight to fold the proverbial metal and build the tensile strength of the trunk and trunk stability. And the best way we know how to do that is to challenge posture and position in the bilateral movements. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Well,
so you've answered my question.
What I said was that you asked if you could linear progress unilateral movements, and I said
you can linear progress
anything.
Yeah,
but in terms of more meaningful, then it's not as meaningful as on the bilateral.
Force of the tree.
Because at the end of the day, unilateral movements take into a lot more account with stability. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the overhead squat is a terrible strength training movement or a test of strength. It's a test of stability and shoulder function and trunk mobility and all those other key factors. Mm-hmm. Putting a heavy bar on somebody's back and asking them to go up and down is a more, I guess you'd call more of a pure strength type movement. But I mean, Tom Eklund and I had a great conversation about this, actually not another one offline, but him talking about at a certain point, unilateral movements become extremely beneficial because you can overload that specific muscle without, what do you call it? He basically made the point of physical and neural partitioning, where you might have a more dominant side that in bilateral movements all of a sudden will get more activation so that you can actually pinpoint and start developing it. And, he made a great point in terms of both muscularity and strength, that at some point in an advanced athlete, that unilateral movement should be kind of partitioned in the front.
Right. And go ahead. So the majority of people we're working with and then where listeners are working with, they need that accelerated adaptation that the bilaterals provide. So once they develop that structure and that tensile strength, it provides us more of an opportunity to then accelerate
the
step
advancement
up and the lunge.
Yeah.
Right.
So rather than trying to hit everything concurrently, potentially flattening out that adaptation curve, we found that having this partition works faster. So I guess direct answer, again, just to summarize, they both have a place in training. They should both be progressed. Every ounce counts. And anybody who's in the camp of one versus the other, we respectfully disagree with, because I know Mike Boyle has his reasons. We had him on the podcast, but I think where he gave us an example of his 6'2" volleyball girl. Like, we would still have her do bilateral work, but it wouldn't be at the compromise of posture and position.
I think, Mike Boyle, for all the heat he takes, I really appreciated him on the podcast. And actually, he was more similar to us and just about anybody else we've had, in that, here's a guy who has a very, very long breadth of athletes he's worked with, and
Pedigree.
his pedigree. I mean, just who he's worked with is phenomenal for as long as he's been in it.
Yeah, and but what he's also accomplished with regards to injury rates and shit like that.
He ran into a deal where he started finding that, was it more important? Like, what was more important, the training of the movement?
Yeah.
Right. So he was like, if somebody can't squat and I need them to do some form of flexion extension with their legs, how do I get it done?
Maybe it's not the squat.
Yeah, maybe it's not the squat. Like, if their shoulder's messed up and, this. And so he started looking for different ways to load the movement. And he started getting into these hockey guys that had back injuries and they couldn't squat. And so he's like, I'm like, I got this deck of cards. I know what I want to do, but I don't get to play that card. So he got to the point where he was playing other cards and the people were getting performance gains out of unilateral movements. But then we talked to Stu McGill, who blames all these loose hips and hip injuries and capsule injuries on Mike Boyle and his, fucking overloading the unilateral movements. And when I told Boyle about that, he's like, fuck Stu McGill. So, I mean, there's two world-renowned experts. I mean, I'll say Boyle is an expert because he is, and so is, Stu McGill, and I thought it was hilarious. But the problem is that people are in this camp. And you know what? Stu McGill, if you guys have an opportunity to go back and listen to that podcast, was probably one of the best podcasts we've had, because his whole thing was like squat, move, carry, walk, train, train different movement patterns. Don't get stuck in the same things.
Yeah, very Dan
bilateral, unilateral move, bilateral, unilateral, carries this, trunk stability. And, I think even at the end, I thank Stu for actually being one of the least crazy people we've ever talked to. Mm-hmm. And I was like, dude, I felt like I had several conversations with him offline and some of the best stuff. Just really, just very, very inspirational and very good for us. But, at the end of the day, I think people really kind of fight this deal and realize that in terms of primal movement patterns, you have to develop a bilateral. You got to be able to lunge. You got to be able to step. Rip kind of shit on the lunges. Like, lunges are just for making you real sore. And I was like, well, why are you sore? Limiting factors. I'm like, if your whole mode for doing something or not doing something is getting sore, then you have to reevaluate. So yeah. I love Rip, but we always joke, these things go back.
Yeah. And I think you two gladly will disagree.
Well, I'm excited.
Agree that you'll never agree.
I'm excited to the day. What's funny is Rip and I battle on a lot of things, but yet Rip's like, the day you move to Texas, I will gladly come down and eat your barbecue.
Get him on Talk to Me Johnny live. That's going to be so epic when we get him on the long road.
Oh yeah, no, he said he'll drive, and he's like, when you get out of this fucking terrible California state, I will gladly come to your house and barbecue, because Rip came to my house in Newport Beach, and I pulled out some really, really nice steaks that I had gotten from Macau that I had hung extra days and the whole deal. And he was so appreciative, like that. Like it's interesting when you meet people that are, and I consider Rip to be in that old school, like my parents kind of deal. Like, you see him, you shake. Like, I always fuck with him and try to hug him and shit. He's like, don't hug me, which I still do to my dad. But like, I came over and I was like, yo, man, I bought this whole cow. Like, we got some really nice choice cuts. I pulled them out, and Rip was like, undercooked them perfectly, and he cuts into it, and he's like, it's real nice of you. He's like, to come over to somebody's house and serve them this quality of meat, goes to show, what kind of individual you are. And I'm like, what, do people fucking invite you over and serve you fucking chuck round?
You're opening the freezer.
Yeah, no, I did. I mean, you guys come over. I mean, dude, we've been eating that elk every time you guys come over. So, I don't believe me. If somebody's coming over, I'm going to cook something nice because I want to eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, Kate, fire up the good stuff. Don't break up the fish sticks.
What do we got, Tex?
All right, sticking with athleticism. This is from Crookston. Train Heroic.
Ben Crookston.
All right, name the three best arenas for finding competition for the aging power athlete. It seems like the endurance market is always the natural path for aging competitors. What are your recommendations for fueling the competitive fire for athletes whose biggest power outputs are behind them?
Well, what opportunities are out there for the aging power athlete? You know, I mean,
The Highland Game stuff?
There's Highland Games. There's probably some strongman, like Denny just
Oh, yeah,
did.
for sure.
There's some powerlifting. I mean, you know, nothing. I really don't want to see old man gymnastics.
Why? Haven't you seen Old School?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and like, yeah, you know, I think, you know, I mean, like the Tough Mudder stuff is great, and like some form of adventure racing, I think is good.
But that kind of falls on the endurance side.
But there's Masters tracks. We got Jay Pizzle on.
Yeah.
And he I'm sure there's you can link us up to the barrier to entries that's necessary.
Did you guys watch the Olympic trials?
No.
No, I wanted to get into it.
So we watched the men's and the women's 100 and 200 for the Olympic trials with the girls, and we also watched the gymnastics and the swimming because my daughter Jamie's super into swimming, and Kelly's just like enamored with the gymnastics. But we got a chance to watch the sprint stuff, and it was pretty amazing to watch. Not only you know, the attention to detail, like seeing how explosive those girls were out of the blocks, but I mean, there were I think the one girl that won ended up running sub 11 flat. She was like I think she was like a 1078 or maybe like a 1068 100. I mean, dude. And then what was it? Not Tyson Gay, but who was the guy? The other guy that won.
Up to date.
Yeah, Tyson Gay got basically smoked, but it was the other guy who's in his 30s. Fuck, it'll come here in a second. But dude, it was amazing to watch, and like watching the track stuff at Oregon especially was really nice. I mean, it just looks so killer, but just seeing the level of emotion and watching people run. I mean, dude, like to me, there's nothing better than watching somebody run 100 meters as fast as they can. I mean,
against other people. The foot race, dude. I'm telling you, it's like
and then they also had like a bunch of the decathletes. Those guys went out and ran the 1500, which was pretty hilarious watching those guys run because they all ran like 4.5 minutes. Like they were all sub 5 minute like miles. I mean, it was pretty good, dude. I was like, this is awesome. So, yeah, it was cool.
So I guess did we get a third one? Because I think powerlifting for sure. I'm sorry, strongman could be like is pretty low barrier to entry, not super skilled. The Highland Game stuff I think is a little more skilled, right?
Yeah.
And then do we want to go with powerlifting, or is there something else out there we're not thinking?
Masters track.
Masters track.
Ben's fast. He's fast as fuck.
Yeah.
Who? Well, Ben is actually Crookson.
Training for
he's training for the bobsled. Oddly enough, though, for a kid who just played college football, he's actually in worse shape than I am.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, well, you know, it's just I always think the guys you see get to a long NFL career, they're just merely because from some genetic adaptation that they're able just to endure more harassment than other people.
But didn't you tell an analogy about two of the same truck, and one got beat to shit, didn't change the oil and lasted longer?
Yeah, did I tell that on the podcast? Or I tell you?
No, it's just us. I think just us girls.
So as you guys know, I'm into piece of shit trucks, and more importantly, I'm really into diesel pickups and diesel blazers and anything diesel. I'm kind of in, and this is started years ago when I got my first Duramax, and have always been enamored by diesel motors because one, they make monster torque, and also they're more efficient than gas motors. And just the chugga of a diesel is always good. So I had a 6.2 diesel and then put a 6.5 in my Blazer, and I drive a Duramax. And the Power Athlete, just added a new one to the fleet, 6.2 diesel, dually. And I called the guy about an injection pump and got on there and rapped a little bit with him and was asking him about break-in period. And he made a good point to me. He said he went to buy a new Duramax, and he bought two trucks at the exact same time. One was his truck and the other one was the company truck. And the company truck towed like a 10, 15, 20,000 pound trailer. Everybody in the company drove it. They didn't change the oil. They literally just beat it from day one. They never fixed anything. They went over the service and abused it every which way they could. The other one was his own nice truck, and he changed the oil and babied it and didn't do anything, didn't tow. And he goes, guess which one had the most problems? And I was like, well, I don't know. He said the one that he babied had so many problems he ended up selling it. He goes, the one that they abused out the gate, he goes, has never had a single problem. They've never had any sensors, never changed the brakes. I mean, he goes, literally that truck is indestructible. Everybody that drives it tries to buy it because it's so dependable. So he said with diesel trucks, he goes, if you baby them, they're going to come back to bite you. So his analogy to me was hammer it from day one.
And honestly, that's how – I don't drive my car like an asshole, but I did I believe in that because I've noticed that when I would pamper a truck back when I was a kid, I didn't have any nice trucks. I had that little fucking S10.
Yeah, but I think gassers are a little bit different than diesels.
I don't know, man, because I think it's kind of the same. Maybe it's the fucking motor, maybe it's the build out. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to a vehicle, but I know my buddies who drove like pussies, their cars would have problems. But then if you know how to fucking kind of push your car and kind of hammer it / keep it on the rails, those guys they didn't have that many problems.
Well, but also you go back to the Navistar where you told me that, these guys are out there abusing their trucks and all they did was they serviced them early and they knew they would last long.
Just stay ahead of the recommended service cycles.
Well, I mean, it's like, like I've been looking at putting a 4BT in the Blazer because I just love the idea of a little straight 4-cylinder that I could just ramp up and just abuse all day long.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is guys will run those 4BTs for a couple 100,000 miles, pull them out and throw them in 2 or 3 different vehicles, change the oil, never do anything, and those things will run forever.
Mm-hmm.
So
how did we get on this? Oh, the power sports.
Yeah, power sports. So the moral story is if you have a diesel, don't baby it. Now here's the deal: are you a gas or are you a diesel?
Who, me or Tex?
Well, I don't know.
I mean, I think
let's just go to the next.
We have no choice to be but diesel. Like if we show up, if we buy a car
every day.
If we buy a car without John knowing, you're automatically fired. 1, 2. If you show up with a car that has a gas motor in it, you're fired. So if we want to keep our jobs, we just got to get diesels, which is why I got that VW diesel. And then next thing you know, I'm a fucking criminal now.
Well, no, here's the thing. And I kind of laugh because, I've been into the diesels for, a long time now. I got my first Duramax in 2003. And so I've been into it for 13 years and I've always been about the diesels. And you could usually score them pretty soon. And then that Diesel Brothers show comes on with the guys in Utah. And now all of a sudden everybody's fucking on the diesel train. Yeah. And I'm like, fuck, the diesels went up in value. And so little they know we have a fleet of diesel pickups. But the reason we drive diesel trucks is because they're the only ones that don't have to mess with the emissions in California, which can be a ball buster.
All right, let's get back to it, Tex. What do we
got? All right, training. So remote coaching.
Mm.
So incredible challenge for, I guess, some athletes to take on. We got Stu from Pittsburgh. I'm pretty sure I need a coach. I was once told a coach needs a coach. I failed with remote coaching in the past. How the hell do I find the right one for me? I have also made tremendous gains using the CrossFit Football amateur design. So thanks for that.
So there you go. I guess, I don't know, John, you've remote coached some people. I've got a few on my list. Tex is doing it for him. I mean, what do you?
I think, at least for me, remote coaching is pretty labor intensive in that you have to be, not only writing programs involved, really in communication with the guy because you're not seeing him. So to keep those touch points alive, you got to have a video, you got to text, you got to do it.
Yeah.
And so for me, I just can't really do the remote coaching anymore as much. I mean, I can do programming and do some of the things I do, but in terms of one-on-one stuff, I just too much.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me reframe the question for you. You've had clients recently, I think, that it didn't work out well. What did you notice from the client side why do you think they failed? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. I think the reason that, a big part of coaching is daily accountability.
Mm-hmm.
If you show up each day and you see that person, there's some form of accountability. I think when all of a sudden things are done remotely, I just don't know if it's the same accountability. It's kind of like, going to the gym,
let me I'm kind of baiting you. If you're the type of guy who, if Tex calls me back or Tex calls me, I'm like, hey man, I got to call you back in 10 minutes. Right. And I don't call Tex back. I don't think I'm a candidate for remote coaching because the coach, if they have multiple athletes, you have to find a really special, obsessed coach to stay that hard on top of you because oftentimes it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. The most successful people that we have through our nutrition coaching and that I've worked with on the private coaching through Power Athlete are the ones who it's easy to get along with. We speak each other's languages. We both throw movie quotes and jokes and shit at one another. You're just easy to communicate and you're not dreading. You can tell that the athlete isn't holding anything back when they check in. Does that make sense? Like, they're not being brief. They're not leaving out details. They're giving you everything. And when they give me that, then I can give them everything because I know what to get back to. So it's like asking these questions, like, should I do 2-a-days? Well, tell me about yourself type deal. So I guess but if you're not that type of guy and you're not the one that's going to have the quality that you want to get in touch with your coach, then maybe remote coaching isn't for you. But that could also, I guess, be a personnel thing.
So I'll take the coaching perspective in that we have more tools in the toolkit. So one approach that I take, and then all my private guys can account for this, is I don't ask for lift videos. So I ask for the dead bugs. I ask for the seesaw walks. I ask for the Spider-Mans because I know what I see within those I'm going to see in the lift.
Right.
So if we're able to correct with using all of our other tools, assessment protocols, we can better put you in a position to make you more coachable when it does come to the lift because you'll be more connected to your body, you'll be more aware, and we're attacking limiting factors immediately. So we never look at the squat as a squat. We look at all the components of the squat and then try to kind of fix all the pieces and then put you in a position to step under the bar and succeed.
That performance perspective in terms of like, hey, think dead bug. Hey, think seesaw walk. Hey, think this because we've mastered the in like the small components, the chunking model. So I don't know, man. Well, I don't know. I don't think this guy's worked with us, but
He's been to a seminar.
okay. So the remote coaching thing can work, but like it's kind of like a long distance relationship thing.
Certain people can do it, other people can't.
Yeah. So I don't know. Did we answer that?
I believe so. I got a brief from my private guy, Peter, who's checking in. Are you familiar with Donnie Thompson's back protocol at all?
No.
Okay. Then
We tried to get Donnie on the podcast, and oddly enough, we couldn't do it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll skip that one.
Yeah.
Well, it had to do with inversion, hanging like inversion or something like that.
I mean, I think inversion's great, especially for unloading the joints, but I'm not familiar with any Donnie stuff.
So we can't intelligently speak to it. So.
Okay. Lightning round?
All right, sure.
All right, so we got a request for a return of the day in the life of CrossFit football seminar staff.
All right.
Luke, you can speak to this.
Okay. It's in the works. So Tex and I are trying to fucking just swallow our pride or ego. I don't know, John. What would it be? What is that feeling that you feel if you're holding a camera and talking to it in fucking public?
You know what? You got to channel your inner Steve Weatherford. When I saw Steve was at his dinner with the pros thing, and I tried to have a conversation with him, but I couldn't because he was Snapchatting, he was Instagramming, he was like working like 3 different phones and all these different things, and I was kind of like, hey, I'm a, I think it's, you know what? Think about this. What if you just got like a hat that had like a boom on it with the GoPro, and you just like had the hat on and the GoPro was right there, and you just walked around just talking, filming, thinking, being, you, and allowing you to be you. So
that's what we're trying to do. I got one from Colorado. I'm going to put out there, see what it's like, but we're calling it Carrying the Milestone, right? And it's just like, I don't know, just in the sense that just being part of this seminar staff is a huge milestone for Tex and I, and it's like we also consider it a milestone for anybody attending it in the sense that this is our opportunity to shift people's coaches' journey or athletes' journey, shift the trajectory of that in a positive sense, and we consider that to be a milestone. So you should see some of that shit coming out on YouTube shortly.
Yeah, and John and I are going to Spain, so I'll try to capture and see what we can come up with.
Yeah, cool. For sure.
Here's an easy one. John, will Power Athlete HQ ever put out a CrossFit competition athlete program on Train Heroic?
We could. That would just take sitting down and being able to enter it into Train Heroic, which I don't know if you guys know, but for the way that we write program is kind of laborious. I mean, it takes a lot of work, but we could definitely do it if there was a need for it. If there was a desire for people to follow a Power Athlete inspired program. Actually, I have it. It's called the Big Monkey, but I don't know if you're ready for it.
Because people don't have time. Honestly, in order to support these programs, we need at least 500 people to follow it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's so what we put it out, we write it, we program it, and like people are going to look and they'll be like, wow, I gotta train. People complain about the training on Field Strong being 90 minutes.
So
And they're like, wait a minute, I can't win the game across the game so 45 minutes a day.
here's the thing. How should I address this person?
If you want that program, email us and we can.
So that would realistically have to be a private deal because so this is where like John had this idea, and then I'm like I'm the business guy, and I fucking shit on it because I don't think it's going to be hit. We don't have a big enough market for it. And are we capable of doing it? Yeah. I mean, do we have a base of people following our program that do that? I don't know. Maybe a small base, but that's not the market we truly cater to. But it's something we could certainly do on a private programming basis, and it just isn't ready really to go to mass market. We just don't have that audience. So there's the unfortunate reality. Like, I know you want that, but it's not all about you, right? It's about the other people.
Most benefit. Easy one, I guess. Power clean or squat?
Yes.
No, you got to pick one. You're going to a desert island. You get 3 things.
Yes.
One of them is Fight Club the movie. The other one is, what else?
Well-Fuco beef jerky.
Well-Fuco beef jerky. And then finally, you get to pick one lift. What are you taking with you?
I'll take the squat.
What are you taking?
I'm going to just do the opposite of you.
Shit, that was my plan.
I'll go jump in and say power clean just because I love to talk with Olympic lifters and just have fun with them because they're so beeline, so kind of focused straight ahead, got the blinders on, and I love to just ask the stupid questions and really just mess with them in conversation.
I think I'm going to go squat because you can do more variations of a squat. Right?
Yeah.
There's only one power clean. I can stagger my
you
feet.
can do a one-arm power clean.
One-arm power clean,
No, only
stagger stance,
cloak
you can
off can do
ISO
that.
elevated.
Uh-huh.
Dude, there's more variations.
Nah.
You haven't come up with them yet.
That's right.
But if we're sitting on a desert island and we only have that lift, we're going to get pretty fucking creative.
Yeah, fair enough. What else we got?
Favorite book for strength and conditioning.
Oh, for strength and conditioning. Favorite book for strength and conditioning.
I'm just going to default to whatever Tex tells me because he's going to have to give me the cliff notes anyways.
I think the River Cottage Meat book is probably my best is my favorite strength conditioning deal. The River Cottage Meat book. Let me go with that one. If you've never read it, that's the best strength conditioning book I've ever read.
Right.
Tex, what do you got?
I'll go Hatfield. So it teaches you how to have a strength and conditioning conversation with the meathead.
Mm-hmm.
He takes all the science out, just tells you what you need to know, and it's a good kind of stepping stone for anyone looking to get into this. What I don't recommend is your stepping stone be super training, because that'll just scare you off, as we've seen with many of folk that we recommend that text to.
I think it's a great book.
Oh, I'm all about it.
I love it. I mean, anytime I have a question, I can usually relate it to something back in super training.
Absolutely.
I think I'm going to go. My favorite ebook is one in progress called Bedrock. Tex, wink, wink. Right? Because that's going to be the entryway to like
Nirvana.
To honestly every and anything you need to know about.
I'm excited to write the forward.
Mm-hmm. It's like every journey's got to start somewhere, John.
You know, every journey of 1,000 steps begins with one step.
One monumental step.
Yeah. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single toe in the one direction.
So what do we got, Tex?
Let's see. This is a personal for Luke.
Oh, come on.
How does it feel? This is from a DOS clinic.
Terrible.
How does it feel to be beaten by an emaciated man?
So here's the background on this question is the fact that Nate has wasted away to 160 pounds, and he's not even over. That's my guess. Doesn't he look like
he's looking pretty thin.
He looks like Christian Bale from The Machinist.
Yeah, I actually thought he looked more like Sarah Jessica Parker in Sex and the City. But, his beard is, kind of patchy, which is weird because he's intentionally making it patchy.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
I mean, I'm not one to talk. I'm wearing this stupid beard.
It's
but
terrible.
But we were rack pulling this morning, and as everybody may or may not know, I'm allergic to pulling.
Well, but here's the thing. My favorite part about Nate is Nate decides what he wants to compete on, but doesn't tell you about it.
Until after he's done, in case he wins.
So you absolutely destroy him on the safety squat bar, but yet he doesn't remember that, which is part of Nate's problem is he has this incredibly selective, but almost like strangely inflated sense of ego.
Oh,
that
yeah.
is kind of disproportionate and, more importantly, disconnected from anything.
So to answer your question, I guess, so we don't barrel forward on this, I feel nothing. I'm a nihilist.
That's just your opinion, man.
Yeah. Because I truly think I could have thrown another 50 pounds on that rec pole.
Yeah, that looked good. You know?
So
This is from Ingo B.
Oh, Jesus.
For John. Has past head trauma affected John's taste in music? Because that would explain a lot.
It would. Well, I'll tell you. You know what it is. After I lit Ingo up, where I actually named the most recent program after him, which is the cast, which is Can Asians Stop Talking? Is actually the name of the most recent program, which is directed at Ingo. But Ingo is actually the purveyor of bad jokes and terrible timing. He not only is he an oddly strange DJ that's relegated towards Middle Eastern weddings and
80s pop
and quinceañeras at the park, which is pretty much his that's his wheelhouse. It's not good. But I don't know. I mean, I really don't know what my music taste would have to do with Ingo's, but
Well, because he's probably all over your Instagram and you're posting up playlists with like Godsmack and then Katy Perry and then what did Promoter put on?
Steely Dan.
Steely Dan.
Well, I've been posting Instagram like, don't sleep on these. So oddly enough, we don't have an Ingo playlist. Thank God.
I think we do. His is like 3 days long.
It'd be like Aquaman and like I'm a Barbie girl.
All right, let's barrel forward text.
All right, this is from Anonymous. So, kids seem to be dropping out of high school to be homeschooled, so that they can spend more time training for CrossFit. So, what's your take on this, John?
Competitive CrossFit.
Competitive, because there are team divisions that are at the games.
I really have just no real opinion about this. I mean, I think if you're at the point where you have to drop out of school to be homeschooled to try to do enough in terms of athletic advantage, I don't know. I mean, I think I could understand if you're, a 10, 12-year-old girl who is training for the Olympics and you have to move to someplace to train in a private training facility.
And figure skater, gymnast.
Tennis, golf, those exist.
Like the story, one of the guys I played high school football with who sat next to me in one of my classes, Ron Kwan, I remember he didn't go out after sophomore year. I was like, how come you didn't go out for varsity? I saw him in class. He's like, I can't. I got to work at our family's restaurant. I was like, oh, that sucks. I'm like, dude, you don't get to play football? He's like, yeah, well, my sister's really good at ice skating, and so she has to move to Lake Arrowhead, and my mom's living with her so she can train full-time in ice skating. And I was like, oh. And he's like, so I got to work at the family restaurant and kind of support everything. I'm like, dude, that's pretty good. And he's like, yeah, my sister's pretty good at figure skating. And his sister, Michelle Kwan.
Whoa. All right.
So I went to school with her brother, Ron Kwan, and he's like, yeah, she's pretty good. And then all of a sudden, it's like the most decorated female figure skater in the history of the world, Michelle Kwan, wins like 27 gold medals or something. But like there was, could CrossFit go up to that deal? I think, I don't know a single football player who, said, hey, I'm going to get homeschooled so I can effectively just train all day. And more importantly, all the kids that I know that were homeschooled were all a little odd. So I think if you want to set your kid up for being extremely odd, homeschool him and educate him and then let him do CrossFit all the time. So, and good luck getting into college with that one. So I think it's weird. I mean, if my kid was like, hey, I want you to homeschool me, I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I guess that's nothing, because this is kind of a segue into another question we have, and it's nothing against necessarily the CrossFit. It's just like the exposure, like to kids should.
They're going to
kids be kids?
Yeah, like we've talked about this at nauseum, and but like, okay, so you have somebody who's a prodigy, maybe that makes sense, right? But for most kids, if they're not exhibiting signs of being a prodigy at a certain sport or have a certain gift, the secret to like a success later on in life is exposure, letting them play various things in various disciplines, right? And that where is this one text stall for me? Oh, here we are. Teaching middle school PE. We go to our weight room 2.5 days a week. I'm not sure what that means. Maybe 5 days every 2 weeks. And focus on heavy squat, bench, and deadlift if they're able to perform a deadlift safety, with some accessory work as well. Anything else kids should be able to do before they reach high school. So it's like, I don't know, play.
Well,
like I like the idea of having them become competent, but like,
yeah, I'm not a big fan of heavy strength training too early. I mean, I know it's not going to stunt the growth and do everything. I just think there's better opportunities to develop other skills outside of the weight room
that are harder to develop later on in life.
I think I had this conversation with you guys recently. I take my daughters to gymnastics, and I'm sitting there with one of the parents who I see there every week, a father, and his little girls in my daughter's or my girls' gymnastics class. And he's like, hey, I know you played football. And so he asked me, his 10-year-old son has been playing tackle football, or he went from flag football to tackle football. And he asked me what I thought and like what he could do to improve his running and a weight training program. And I asked him, I was like, well, what would be the goal of putting him in football so early? And he goes, well, I just think that I started playing football too late. I waited till high school, and I don't think I was ready to play. And he kind of gave me this whole deal. I said, it's odd because I didn't play football till high school, and I think it didn't, detract anything from me.
Right.
And so he was like, oh, really? And I was like, actually, all the guys that I knew that played football too early all ended up getting burned out. So he asked me what he thought I should do a training program, and I actually said, you should bring your son to this. I said, you should bring him and show him up and make him come to gymnastics 3 days a week and do this. And he was like, I've tried. He doesn't want to come. I was like, is he into girls? And he goes, a little bit, not really. I was like, well, he should come to gymnastics then because this thing's packed with girls. But I was like, in terms of the tumbling body awareness, I went through a lot of what we talk about here at Power Athlete in terms of training. I was like, this is by far the best exposure I could ever hope for my kids. I'm like, when my son is 9 months, I'll bring him here for it'll be daddy and the baby, but mommy and me or whatever it is. And I will make him come to gymnastics until they tell me he can't come anymore. Mm-hmm. And that might be older, it might be later, but I think, if you can put kids in terms of like a gymnastics, I did martial arts and boxing when I was young, some form of grappling, whether it be like jiu-jitsu, boxing, fighting, some form of fighting, something that involves body awareness, and I was like, dude, and you don't have to have them on a training program, but you can still do, training stuff. I mean, you can, create different things in the backyard. You can do things, you can make it fun. My little girls do push-ups and squats every day before they go to school. I mean, it's, I think people are so enamored with this idea of a training program when in actuality, you have to find fun in it before you can find a training program.
And then there's also the opportunity for kind of creative chaos sports like soccer, lacrosse. So you have the skill of dribbling the ball, separating your eyes from your feet, and then moving through space with somebody else trying to push you around.
Sure.
And then, lacrosse, you have the hand-eye coordination, and, you get a weapon. It's fun for kids. And then basketball. Like, what kid doesn't want to go and this is easy for, front yard, mess around with older brothers and sisters, or you can teach your son the accuracy and kind of depth perception with the ball.
Yeah.
And basket.
So there you go. That's, I guess, and you're in PE class, like you have opportunity to do all that shit. So
fun.
So it would be like putting the training into play. So don't geek out too much about like the best training protocol for a middle schooler.
Yeah.
So
and tag.
What else we got?
Nutrition.
All right. So what meal plans and training programs do each of you follow and why? Right. Okay. So I'm following essentially performance protocol, isocaloric, and then go between that and then our stair-stepping model, which is kind of the phase 2, the performance protocol, isocaloric, and then play with some carb stuff. And then that is paired right now with Jack Street. So that's how we train at the 6 a.m. Barbell Club. And it's no brainer. Tex.
I'm on Luke's plan.
Because Tex lives on my couch right now, so he gets what we think.
Just give him
So and then
and John's elk. I'm on that plan too.
Yeah.
We've been eating a lot of elk. I've been eating majority of my carbs pre and post workout, and then I eat less carbs over the course of the day.
Mhm.
And I really haven't been dialing or like trying to count macros or really even amounts. Things have been a little hectic, so I've just been trying to get at least 4 meals a day and eat the majority of carbs pre and post workout, and that's it. And then try not to eat too late. And then we've been doing whatever we've been doing in Jack Street, which is, in the mornings is probably a little bit of Jack Street with a bunch of just conditioning, and we try to do some stuff in the afternoon, and
It's because the double days make us elite. Let me just clarify.
Yeah, things have been a little busy, a little bit hectic, so it's been kind of killing the training consistency, which is kind of a bummer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, travel.
So travel, fuck your world up.
Which I guess I just want to bounce back real quick to Nate's question. And I've traveled 6 out of the past 7 weekends and have maybe trained once or twice a week. And Nate has been deadlifting, every week, twice a week, trying to fucking,
but I don't really know. Like, training would imply a goal, and actually with effort.
Exercising and lifting weights.
Yeah, no. So we're gonna have to find a new one. I think Nate's just present.
Yeah, so I've been on the chaos train, and I fucking show up and put him to shame.
Yeah, pretty much. You know why though?
He's better at dropping bars than you.
Oh God!
Did you drop a bar today?
Yes, he dropped the fucking bar.
I'm glad I wasn't paying attention, because I probably would have fucking kicked him in the balls.
Yeah. Do we have any?
And
more?
I'm surprised you didn't go fucking more ape shit on him.
I had a good training day ahead of me, and I didn't want to ruin it, because last time you did that shit, did it not ruin your fucking training day?
Left.
Yeah, so I didn't want to risk it.
One more, I think, is of value here. Following the excellent Jim Carizzi podcast, any thoughts or advice on finding a good mentor to help with personal coach development, inside or outside of your sport, or both?
Tex, why don't you just start? You give your version of it, and then I'll give what I think is an abbreviated version, because you're a vagabond. You can go wherever you want, whenever you want. Right?
Yeah, just a gigolo everywhere I go.
Not familiar with that. But anyway, you got to establish a goal. And what are you trying to accomplish in your coaching career, your sport, your world? And find out people who have already kind of either led the way or are kind of creative and passionate enough to even listen to your call. So find those people and then seek them down. I did, I believe it was Power Coach Conversations on this exact question. So it's not necessarily the books or kind of listening to podcasts. It's you going out of your way to hunt down the people you're interested in learning from and having a conversation with them. So you can directly ask them the conversations you want to. It's not an interpretation of their writing. It's actually you working one-on-one with them. So my advice would be just establish a goal, find people who have already accomplished it or are on their way, and then seeking a conversation with them so they can help guide.
And the individual or mentor doesn't have to be directly in your industry. It doesn't have to be a coach. It doesn't have to be a football coach. It could be somebody outside of that. And I guess going back to John's episode of On the Long Road with Andy, one of the things that one of John's new one-isms is no one's coming to save you. Like, you're going to have to put yourself in a position to be exposed to a potential mentor, or to be exposed to a potential significant other, or to be exposed to a potential job opportunity. If you're sitting around, if no one has presented themselves to you in the past 5 years, 10 years, 1 year, what the fuck makes you think that they're going to show up? It's a stroke of luck. It really is. So you have to put yourself out there.
But it's called luck. But those people that always say luck, they sought the opportunity, and then it's quote unquote lucky. Mm-hmm. But if they didn't take action,
it's like you got to put yourself in position to be lucky.
Yes.
It's kind of like the guy who's like, "Oh man, you're so lucky you won the lottery." Well, did you play? No. Mm-hmm. Even though I don't play the lottery, but it's not like I expect to win the lottery. It's like, and I'll take you back to a different time in my life. I remember my buddy saying, the one place I can't get laid or I can't meet a girl? At home by myself. But if I go out to the bar, I go out to a target-rich environment, there's a chance. And if there's a chance, then there's an opportunity. And I remember being like, shit, that's a pretty good idea. Let's go. Let's get ready. We went out to a bar, and I mean,
60% of the time.
it's where it works every time. But like, he was pretty funny. He's like, you know where I'm never going to meet a girl and get laid? At home by myself on the couch. And so like, it's people that are always like, oh, if only this would happen to me. And I'm like, well, dude, have you put yourself in a situation? Wise man once told me, be the type of person that you want to attract in your life. Like that, I think that's what it was. So like, if you want to like meet, successful people, and you want to like go out and, and find a mentor or whatever, you got to put yourself in that situation. Actually, I think it was Addison was asking me, he's like, I'm having trouble meeting a nice girl. How did you meet somebody? I'm like, well, I had to, look at what type of person I wanted to meet, and then I had to go put myself into that situation. And oddly enough, hanging out at bars and strip clubs didn't really necessitate the person I wanted to meet. I know.
Are you? I think you got your stories mixed up.
I know. So, I mean, it's like everything. Like, it's all about opportunity and putting yourself out there.
So, and just working with a lot of college kids, what I see is that there's this expectation to take 4 years of classes for something you think you want to do, and then you get to the end of it, you get your job, and then it sucks, and you go on some different course, whether it's going and attending a different school. If they sought out someone in that profession and maybe took an internship after their second year of school, then it would have either lit the fuel under the fire, or it would have provided them a pivot point earlier than paying for 4 years of school.
Mm-hmm. And, I guess what I was getting to, Tex, when I was talking earlier is, you were in a position where I guess you had no family, right? You had a job that allowed you to be mobile and portable. So you saw an opportunity then to go. If they're not coming to me, I will go wherever I have to go to find them, right? So,
but at that point, it's like as Andy has referenced in kind of his symposium talk, it's pain of discipline or pain of regret. If I didn't go and spend 3 months with Raph, and then 5 years from now, I would have fucking regretted it forever.
Yeah.
Because I had one opportunity, one shot that he was going to be in Tampa for 4 or 5 months before he moved on. So I just had to fucking go, and I went then.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was literally here in California. And then it's how soon can you get there? So we had to swap certs. Kelly went to Columbia with you, and I just fucking flew to Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
So it was then, now, got to go.
Yeah. So I guess
wouldn't have had that opportunity if, I didn't seek it.
Sure. There's a series of cascading events too. Right. And I guess having the creativity of understand, like you said, you create your goal, understand what's keeping you from there, determine limiting factors, take a step back, see what outside of your industry. If there's somebody like, holy fuck, I didn't even know that, Aunt Debbie works for a guy who's, the chief financial officer for, I don't know, I'm making shit up, but like, you got to tap into your network and utilize that, right? So like, I guess don't be afraid to ask, but do something first before asking is also kind of like a nice golden rule. Invite Aunt Debbie over for a nice prime rib dinner at John's house, and
if you can't find, say it is coaching again. This is just the example. I mean, that's I think what you're asking about. You have to create your own internship. So find people that are interested in the athletic form of training. If you're not into general GPP, fitness, or whatever, find kids that want to be sports performance and take those kids on.
Mm-hmm.
So create that opportunity to learn, and then maybe that opens some avenues for you.
So, all right. Well, what else we got?
I zoned out.
I think that's all the questions there, Tex. I mean, there's a couple in here about toes forward.
Yes. Do you think the law of accommodation is really a thing? It seems that people in the conjugate training world are the only ones talking about it. Yet there are a ton of effective training programs that really don't change up the main lifts that much.
Well, you got to remember, accommodation is, not just related to in terms of rotating movements. It's also changing the volume and intensity.
So this is all. Let me just add a pretty important detail, Tex. Is this something to consider when a person's programming, or just pick a few lifts and get really good at them? And this is with combat sports performance in mind. So this guy sounds like he does some sort of combat sport, MMA, whatever, right? And he lifts some weights to, are you clicking through text? Lift some weights to get better at beating ass. do you really have to get that jiggy with your training?
No.
Right.
No, I mean, the more advanced an athlete, the more important things like accommodation become. If you're still trying to learn the movement patterns and you're not proficient, I mean, where I believe things like the law of accommodation and really what Louis Simmons is talking about, when you're training over 90% for too long, you start seeing a detraining effect. So they actually look at rotating different movements, and what the Russians did. The Russians had great success with it, but yet the Bulgarians used the exact opposite. They started getting rid of lifts, and they got down to like 4 lifts, and they just went max effort every single day. Now, how many eggs did they break to get to their champions? Probably a lot more than the Russians did. I mean, you look at rotating different movements, speed, dynamic, reps. I mean, everything you want to talk about. But you also got to remember, the original conjugate method was based off of the idea of like power clean, hang clean, snatch, power snatch, front squat, back squat. I mean, different type movements. It wasn't all predicated on the idea of rotating different bars. And the Russians had what they called special exercises. So Louis Simmons' adaptation and what he's talking about for his avoiding accommodation is really is the West Side program. But if you go look at all the different variations that the Russians used to avoid accommodation and still allow them to train over 90%, I mean, it's just. But you're also talking about extremely advanced lifters. Who is this guy? Like, where do you fit into it? Like, that's kind of like
I think he's just beating ass.
Like, how far am I from the moon? I don't know. Where are you?
Yeah.
So to add to this in terms of combat sport, I didn't watch this, but this weekend John Jones lost. So in UFC 197, he lost, and he blamed his performance on powerlifting. So Ingo caught me up to speed, and he put on mass, gained size, but his speed was down, his performance, and he just looked slow. So his coaches, wrestling coach, he had a few different coaches who then said, "I told you so," for the powerlifting that he was doing.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, that's like saying,
Get him,
what?
John.
Like,
Go.
No, it's ridiculous. It's kind of like saying, man, it was that chicken that I ate that fucked up my performance. And you're like, so wait a minute, you actually were able to blame it on the chicken, which we do quite often. But you know what? I would look at John Jones and say, well, what did your training look like? Just picking out one piece. I blame it on the powerlifting. Okay. Now, did you effectively pull other things out of your training and then just be like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to do any fight prep. I'm not going to do any sparring, no grappling, nothing. I'm just going to powerlift. Goddamn right, you're going to get your fucking ass kicked. Now, if he all of a sudden put on too much size and muscle mass and wasn't nearly as flexible, then you know what? He's fucking deserves what he gets. At the end of the day, John Jones isn't getting paid to lift weights, and he isn't getting power lift, and he's not walking into the octagon. Somebody asks him, so what's your squat? He's getting there to pay to go fight, so you better get good at fighting. And if the training is actually negatively affecting your fighting or taking away from it, I mean, you got to remember the training's a supplement. And at the end of the day, if he's able to put a training together, I mean, do you blame it on the powerlifting? I don't blame it on the powerlifting. I'll tell you what I do. I blame it on his coach.
I'll read the quote, okay? In my last fight, it definitely played a factor in me being conservative and conserving the way I used my energy. I felt like I was in good shape. My lungs were strong, but I felt like my muscle endurance maybe wasn't in the right place, okay? And then the quote goes on to say, I've actually been focusing in burning off muscle by doing overloading on endurance. I think you'll probably be able to tell in the weigh-ins and during the fight that I'll look a lot more like the way I used to look, a lot less bulky. My endurance feels amazing. So I think so he got too big before the fight and then just went strictly to overloading endurance and then showed up and out and performed like shit.
Don't you also think
that was me dropping the phone.
No, you also think that's a big front, because didn't he get popped for some drugs?
I don't know.
Recreation.
Okay. So, I mean, wouldn't it behoove us to assume, and you know what, and I know you guys are going to find this hard to believe, but a lot of times when professional athletes come out and say shit like this, it's an easy scapegoat than to come out and be like, I was partying too much, I let myself get fat, and I wasn't ready for the fight. More so to be like, it was the powerlifting I was doing. It's kind of like, guys, my favorite, like there were guys in the NFL all the time, would get popped for the drug stuff and be like, oh, it's a supplement I was taking.
Mm-hmm.
And, whether or not it was or not, I mean, who knows? But, the NFL never discloses that shit. But I knew a lot of guys, and whether or not they were taking anything, so.
I don't know. So I guess getting back to it, it's not, and goes with the whole. We talked about this. We have an episode with Tyler and us talking about this. We still haven't released. We should just pop that sucker out. But it comes down to execution. Shocker. So a power lift, like I guess you would call a squat a power lift. But if you had a device that could measure rate of force development and bottom force and things that have a direct transfer to being powerful, like a form collar, then you can use power lifts to be more explosive. And you can use that data to auto-regulate load. And then no longer does progressing load for a high-level athlete like this who still needs to be powerful over and over again, replication of speed, not muscular endurance. So it's replication of creating maximal power. Then you can start to build programs that cater to that using power lifts, which are super effective at doing that, assuming you're executing them correctly.
And then conditioning workouts to help you replicate that speed. So
Mm-hmm.
not only under the bar, but also kind of put your conditioning in a position where you're able to replicate your maximal velocity. So whether that's in the ring or whether it's kind of in training, that form collar allows you that opportunity.
So I guess going back to my guy, don't worry. Who was this, the accommodation one? And he's talking about combat sports, right?
Right.
Don't worry about it if you're a combat sport guy, but it is a real thing at the world-class level, strength sports and weightlifting sports. John, is that a fair summary?
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm good. I'm sweaty.
It's fucking hot in here.
Yeah.
It's hot up in this bitch.
So
Yes,
I guess any closing messages?
CrossFit Football Seminars, Summer Tour, Austin, Texas.
Mm-hmm. What else? Balboa. Oh, we're going to be in SoCal. We're going to be in
Madrid.
Well, you guys are going to Madrid this weekend, but I'm going, where is it? Amsterdam. We're going to be in Amsterdam. We're going to be in.
Well, you're not really in Amsterdam. You're kind of outside of Amsterdam. You're in Urk.
Well, Rome. We got Rome. Right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's closer to Amsterdam than I am now. Is it not?
That's true. That's true. You are closer to Amsterdam, so you guys are going to have to head over to a little Barney's Uptown. Have one for me. Definitely.
We're going to be in Italy, Rome.
We are?
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Well, Tex is.
Oh, yeah.
Tex is going on a European tour.
All
So-
right. Yeah.
And then after that's Oktoberfest. And then I'm trying to finish up.
Do we have a wedding that weekend?
I have weddings every weekend, bro.
This is what you get for being too friendly with people.
And then what else? Oh, dude. And then we got a Celebrity Smackdown going down. I'm going to finish that up tonight. So word on the street is Power Athlete HQ is hosting a Celebrity Smackdown for the CrossFit Games. And these celebrities are going to be performing last year's CrossFit Games workouts. There's a Grindstone team and a Field Strong team. And it's going to be all action stars, and I'm going to be the analyst that tells you how this whole thing plays out. And there'll be a final showdown the week before the games.
Wow.
And if somebody can guess it, there might be some swag in it. So the movie stars, so the characters are competing, but here are the movie stars that are in it: Tom Hardy, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, shocker, Vin Diesel, Will Smith, Jamie Foxx.
Is this what you guys work on when I'm not
Yeah.
paying attention?
This is why I've taken 20 days off, John. I've had to watch these movies.
Oh, okay.
Research.
Stallone
Stallone.
and Schwarzenegger. Those are the 8. And then
what about Will Smith?
the MC, no, Will Smith, didn't I say that?
Yeah.
The MC of this whole thing, the head judge of the Power Athlete Celebrity Smackdown is Nicolas Cage. So I'll be working hand in hand with Nicolas Cage to ensure that the integrity of the Smackdown is upheld.
Wow.
So it's going to be a fucking good one.
Wow.
Anyways, all right, I'm done. Let's shut it down.
Yeah.
All right, see you guys. Bye.
Now it's time for you to empower your performance. If you want your question answered on the next crew episode of Power Athlete Radio, you can reach John on his personal cell phone at, just kidding, it's way easier than that. Just follow us on Instagram at Power Athlete HQ. Look for the next post indicating a Q&A episode and hit us up with your question. Until next time, bye!